Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. This is the fourth video in our Pokemon Scarlet and Violet solo run challenges, and today we're going to be using Goldengo. The rules for this challenge are that we aren't allowed to use items in battle to heal or restore status, but we can use held items. We're also not allowed to use any other Pokemon in battle apart from during the Team Star bases and during the mandatory double battle area of the game. For the mandatory double battles, we will be using a Pokemon that knows Splash and just using that so they can't do any damage during the fight. When we look at Goldengo's base stat total, we have 550 with special attack being by far our highest stat. We also have good stats for HP, defense, special defense and speed, and attack is our lowest stat at 60. Looking at our move pool, we've got some good moves through level up. Some of them are quite late, but not a lot of variety in our move list. But when we look at the TMs, we've got a lot of good variety with a lot of good moves that we can learn throughout this challenge. We're going to choose Quaxly for our starter so that Nemona has Fuecoco, as it has super effective moves against both Steel and Ghost for us. And then after we've beaten Nemona for the first time, we're going to go and move Goldengo over from Pokemon Home. We're going to try and win this battle, but we can't do a lot of damage to Fuecoco. We also get burnt and we end up losing our first actual battle with Goldengo outside the gates of Mesagoza. But after that, we can go through, finish off the tutorial, and then from there we can get on with the actual game. At the end of the tutorial, we have a time of 59 minutes. The first stop on our challenge is Katie, the Bug-type gym leader. We're at level 11, we've got a time of 1 hour 13 minutes, and we're holding the Wise Glasses to boost our special damage. Katie leads with Nimble, which falls to a single Flash Cannon before sending in Tarantula, which survives a Flash Cannon, hits us with a Bug Bite for very minimal damage, and then gets finished off. Katie's ace Pokemon, Teddiursa, terrestrializes to the Bug type, and we do about half damage with Flash Cannon. She hits us with Fury Cutter, which does next to nothing, and then we finish off Teddiursa with another Flash Cannon, and that's the first fight. You can also notice at this point that I have added an attempt counter to the bottom so that you can see how many times I try to beat these challenges. With Goldengo it's not too bad, but the other ones took quite a lot. Next up is Cloth, and we're at level 12 with a playtime of 1 hour 22 minutes and still using the Wise Glasses. For the first phase of Cloth, very simple, one Flash Cannon, one shot set, and we can move on to the second stage. After Cloth goes scurrying off, we go and chase it down for phase 2 with Arvin joining us and his shoulder. We start the battle off with Flash Cannon, which does just under half HP, and we take a critical hit Rock Throw. Shoulder goes for Life Dew, but it doesn't affect us due to our ability. With our speed lowered on the second turn, Cloth outspeeds us again and goes for another Rock Throw, making us even slower. Shoulder then outspeeds us, going for Water Gun, taking Cloth to half HP and activating Anger Shell ability. With Cloth's defenses now lowered, Flash Cannon is enough to finish it off, and we've beat our first Titan of the run so far. The Grass-type gym leader Brassius is next, and we are at level 14. We've got a time of 1 hour 36 minutes, and we're still using the Wise Glasses. We've also had no deaths so far in the run, and Brassius leads Petlil, which survives a Flash Cannon, surprisingly, before hitting us with Mega Drain for next to no damage, and then going down. Next up is Smoliv, which also surprisingly survived a Flash Cannon and hits us with Razor Leaf, which does next to nothing, leading to Brassius's final Pokemon, Sudowoodo, which he's going to terrestrialize to the Grass type and name Truly Woodo. We hit Flash Cannon, outspeeding it for quite a fair bit of damage before taking a Trailblaze, which boosts Sudowoodo's speed. At this point, I am questioning if we're faster or not still, but we are hitting another flash cannon, almost finishing it off. With another Trailblaze boosting the speed, I decided to hit Nightshade just to see if we could finish it off, and we outspeed, finishing off Truly Rudo and granting us our second gym badge from this run. Moving along, we go to the second Titan, Bombardier now. We're at level 17 with a playtime of 1 hour 52 minutes and still using the Wise Glasses. We start the battle off using Flash Cannon, and it does enough that I believe the second one was going to trigger phase 2, but it didn't quite. So after we take a pluck, which doesn't do a lot of damage to us, we also then take a rock throw, leaving us just above half HP. For the second stage of the fight, Arven joins us with his Knackley, and we decide not to heal just to try it, see if we can win, and we do. We just keep hitting Flash Cannon each turn. Bombardier does try to taunt us at one point, but it doesn't do anything thanks to our ability, and after a few rounds, Bombardier goes down, and we have got 2 Titans B and the ability to swim now. We're over to Iono next, the electric type gym leader. We're at level 28, we've got 2 hours 49 minutes in the game now, and we're using Wise Glasses still. As you can see, we've had 3 deaths to Iono. One of them was just because of paralysis, and then Miss Magius hitting us with Hex. But at the start, we had nothing to hit Iono's Pokemon with, so we had to go and grab the Power Gem TM from a little bit further up in the game. With that, we were able to take all our Pokemon out, and without getting paralysed this run, Miss Magius isn't able to kill us. Just try and confuse Rayas, but because of Good as Gold, we can't get confused through that, and we managed to take it out, granting us our 3rd gym badge. After taking out Iono, I decided, with our Terra type being Ghost, that we could go and defeat Mela next, as Power Gem is super effective against her. We are at level 29 with a playtime of 3 hours, and we're still using the Wise Glasses. We terrestrialize against Torkoal, hit Power Gem, and then we just keep hitting Power Gem until we get the victory. Mela really wasn't a challenge at this point with that move. So we're able to be our first Team Star leader, and we're going to go straight to Giacomo next. Like I'd said, Giacomo's up next and straight after. We are still at level 29. We've got a playtime of 3 hours and 19 minutes, and we're using the Wise Glasses still. Giacomo leads with Pawniard, which survives a Power Gem and hits us with a Metal Claw, boosting its attack, but it goes down on the next turn. This leads us to the Team Star Mobile, which goes for Metal Sound after it outspeeds us, and Flash Cannon does over half damage. So on the next turn, we take it out. It does go for Metal Sound again, but Metal Sound doesn't affect us, so it's not really any issue. And we've now beaten 2 of the Team Star bosses, and next up is Kofu, the water type gym leader, and we're at level 30 with a playtime of 3 hours 42 minutes, and we're using the Wise Glasses. We've also picked up the Thunderbolt TM at this point, so if Veluza went down to a single Thunderbolt, well, Trio goes down to a single Thunderbolt. He then sends in his ace Pokemon, Crabominable, which terrestrializes to the water type, survives a Thunderbolt, surprisingly, does very little to us, and then falls to a second Thunderbolt. The Steel type Titan is up next, Orthworm, and we hit it with a Thunderbolt, which doesn't quite finish it off, but it hits us with an Iron Tail, which does very little, before we finish it off and send it running for phase 2 with a second Thunderbolt. For phase 2 of Orthworm, Arven joins us with his Toedscool. We hit a Thunderbolt, which does just under half, and dodge an Iron Tail. Toedscool then hits Orthworm with a Grass Knot, taking it to just below half. So on the second turn, we finish Orthworm off with a Thunderbolt, and that is us now halfway through the badge challenge portion of this game. And we are also making probably the best time we have so far in any of these challenges. Next up, we're over to Larry, the normal type gym leader and most people's favourite gym leader so far. We are at level 39 with a time of 4 hours and 33 minutes, and we've had 2 deaths against Larry so far. The first one we made it to Staraptor, but it took us out with Aerial Ace, and the second one, because of Kamala's Sucker Punch, we actually lost to the Dudunsparce. On this run, we hit Flash Cannon and do just over half as Kamala goes for Yawn, so a second Flash Cannon takes it out. Larry then sends in the Dudunsparce, which we outspeed, hit with Flash Cannon for around half again, as it goes for Glare, which can't affect us because of our ability, so we take it out on the next turn. This just leaves Larry's ace Pokemon, Staraptor, which terrestrializes to the normal type, and we hit it with Flash Cannon. It then goes for Aerial Ace, which does very small amount of damage, and we finish it off. The Ghost type gym leader Rhyme is up next. We're at level 44 with a playtime of 5 hours and 8 minutes, and I came into this fight to see if I would need to change my Terra type to normal with it being Ghost. But surprisingly, I beat it very easily at this point. We're still using leftovers, as we will be for every battle after this. We terrestrialize turn 1, hit Shadow Ball against Burnett, and it goes down. We get the Omni Boost for that, and she sends in Houndstone, which we take out with a Shadow Ball, before she sends in Toxtricity, her final Pokemon. She terrestrializes that, and we go for Shadow Ball, and it goes down in 1 hit. That just leaves Mimikyu. Shadow Sneak does not do a lot to us, so after we break its disguise, it just takes 1 more turn for Shadow Ball to finish it off, and we've beaten our 6th gym leader. And normally at this point I would go do the bottle caps, but we're not a high enough level for it, so I have to wait a bit for that. Next up, we're back on Team Star bases. We're taking on Atticus, the poison type leader of Team Star. We're at level 44 still. Got a playtime of 5 hours and 20 minutes, and as I mentioned before, still using the leftovers. I kind of put this one off for a little while just because a lot of his Pokemon have dark or ground type moves, and I was a little bit worried about the damage. But as we come into it, Skuntank hits us for a Sucker Punch, which only does about a quarter, and we take it out with a single Flash Cannon. This leads to Revavroom next, which we take out after taking an Assurance, which doesn't do too much. Muck is up after that, which hits us with Mud Slap before going down to a Thunderbolt after a Shadow Ball. This just leaves the Team Starmobile, which has Flame Charge, but it doesn't do enough damage to negate Leftovers recovery. So after a couple of Flash Cannons, that also goes down, and we have beaten 3 of the Team Star bases now. Up next, we're going to Tulip, the Psychic type gym leader. We're at level 46 with a playtime of 5 hours, 56 minutes and using leftovers. And honestly, I hate Tulip's gym challenge. It drives me insane. It takes so long. It feels unnecessary, but it is part of the game. This fight would be a sweep if it wasn't for Farigiraf, which we hit with a Flash Cannon, and it sets up a Reflect, which doesn't help at all before it goes down. After that, we Terra Ghost and take out a Sparfra, Gardevoir, leaving only her ace Pokemon, Florges, which survives the Shadow Ball, hits us with a Moonblast, does about just under half, and then we take it out as we outspeed it, and that's our 7th gym badge done. The Quaking Earth Titan Iron Treads is up next, and we terrestrialize 2 Ghost, and a single Shadow Ball is enough to send it running and start phase 2. We are also at level 48 now with a playtime of 6 hours and 6 minutes and still using leftovers. For the second stage, we have Arvin join us as usual. He's using Scavillain this time. We terrestrialize to the ghost type, hit a shadow ball which does just under half, and Scavillain goes for scary face. With that, we then hit another shadow ball and Scavillain finishes it off with a fire fang. There's only one more left to do, which is Tatsugiri. Next on our list is Grusha, the Ice-type gym leader. We're at level 49 with a playtime of 6 hours and 22 minutes. We have a super effective stab move against Grusha's team. So we take out Frostmoth with a flash cannon, Beartic with a flash cannon, Titan with a flash cannon. Altaria comes in, terrestrializes. We don't quite take it out with a flash cannon, and it hits us with a hurricane, which does very little to us and doesn't get the confusion. So on the next turn, flash cannon finishes it off, and we've got all 8 of the gym badges, and we can go and take on the Elite Four when we are ready to. Next up, we're going to Ortega, the Fairy-type Team Star leader. We're at level 50, we've got a playtime of 6 hours and 35 minutes, and I decided to do this just so I can get Dazzling Gleam to help with Tatsugiri and Hassel in the Elite Four. We start the battle against Azumarill, which we have Thunderbolt for. It does hit an Aquatail for a lot of damage, and then we finish it off. From there, we're able to take out Wigglytuff, Darkspawn, and the Team Starmobile just by hitting Flash Cannon over and over again. And we've only got one more Team Star base left after this, so we're going to do that soon. Next up is our final Titan, Dondozo and Tatsugiri, the False Dragon Titan. We've got a time of 6 hours 51. We're at level 50 for Dondozo, because we level up afterwards to 51 for Tatsugiri. Dondozo is water type. We've got Thunderbolt. It goes down in 2 turns, hits a couple of water pulses in between, not really doing much. When Tatsugiri comes, we've obviously picked up Dazzling Gleam, and I thought that would be enough to take it out very quickly. It wasn't. Tatsugiri must have a higher special defense than I realised. So it takes about 5 or 6 turns, but Tatsugiri just keeps going for Icy Wind, which is more or less negated by our leftovers recovery, and eventually it goes down. Our final battle before the end of the game is the Fighting Star team leader, Eri. And we have had to level up a little bit. We're at level 60, where we've got a time of 7 hours, 24 minutes, and we've had 2 deaths to Eri. One was me being low leveled, and the other one was a missed focus blast against Lucario, as I went and picked the TM up while I was leveling. On this run, we hit Flash Cannon against Toxicroak, which almost takes it out after a Shadow Punch does moderate damage to us. We then finish the Toxicroak off, and she sends in Lucario. Lucario goes down to a single Focus Blast, and then from there we are free to take on the rest of her team without any issues. Team Starmobile doesn't go down in one hit, but it doesn't do any real damage to us either. So we're able to get our final badge of the challenge, and then next up we can go start doing the end of the game. Next up, we're against Director Clavel. We're at level 60 with a time of 7 hours and 40 minutes, and we have had one more death when I attempted Arvin just before this, just to see how we'd do, and we didn't do very well. Clavel leads a Rangaroo, which has foul play and can do quite a bit of damage to us. Luckily for us, as we go for Thunderbolt, which does about a third quarter, it sets up Reflect. We then go for Flash Cannon. With the stab, it does more damage. It goes for Yawn, which fails against us, and we can finish it off. After that, Director Clavel sends out Houndoom. We terrestrialize in case it goes for a fire move against us and go for Focus Blast. Luckily, we hit Focus Blast on our first attempt, and the Houndoom falls. Sends in Sinistea next, and I've overwritten Shadow Ball at this point, which I regret for this, but we are able to take it down with 2 Flash Cannons. After that, Gyarados comes in, falls to a single Thunderbolt. A Abomasnows after that, which falls to a single Flash Cannon, leaving only the Meowscarada. terrestrializing to the grass type. As we hit Flash Cannon, it hits us for very little damage and we're able to take it out after that. All that's left to do now is the Elite Four and the champion for each path. Next up, we're in the Elite Four. We've had to level up a bit, so we're at level 65 and we've got a time of 8 hours and 19 minutes as we take on Rika. We've also had another death against Penny after I tried that straight from Clavel, and Flareon's Flare Blitz just took us out in 2 hits, doing almost full HP from the first one, even terrestrialized. Rika leads with Wishcash. We hit with a Shadow Ball, which almost finishes it, and we get hit by an Earth Power, so we finish Wishcash off with another Shadow Ball. The Dugtrio and Camerupt both fall to a single Shadow Ball. Donphan comes out, we hit Shadow Ball, but it has Sturdy, and it hits us with Earthquake. Doesn't do too much damage as we've terrestrialized and are no longer weak to ground types. With that, we just hit a Dazzling Gleam to finish off the Donphan. This leads to Rika's ace Pokemon, Clodsire, which terrestrializes to the ground type and hits Protect turn 1, so we're not able to hit it. On the second turn, Shadow Ball does about half HP as Clodsire goes for Toxic, which can't affect us because of our ability. And on the next turn, we can finish Clodsire off with a Shadow Ball. Next up is Poppy, the Steel type user for the Elite Four, and she leads with a Copperaja. We take that out with a single Focus Blast, and she sends in Corviknight. We hit Shadow Ball, almost finishing it off as it goes for Iron Defense, and we finish it off with a Shadow Ball. Bronzong comes out, and we kill it with a Shadow Ball. Magnezone is next. It has Sturdy, so we can't one-shot it, but we miss Focus Blast, and it sets up a light screen. The next Focus Blast hits, but doesn't take it down to Sturdy, as we get hit with a Flash Cannon, and we finish it off with Shadow Ball. Poppy's ace Pokemon is Tinkaton with the Terra Steel type. We miss a Focus Blast again and get hit with a Gigaton Hammer, doing quite a lot of damage to us. We hit Shadow Ball, which only does about a quarter of the damage because of the light screen, and we get hit with a Play Rough, taking us into the red. On the final turn, I decide to go for Focus Blast and see if we can land it. We do, we take Poppy out, and we can move on to the third member of the Elite Four. Larry is back with us again now as the third member of the Elite Four and changing from the normal type user to the flying type user. He leads Tropius, which survives a Thunderbolt and goes for Sunny Day before falling to a second Thunderbolt. Next up is Altaria. We hit Dazzling Gleam, which puts it in the red, and it's with a Flamethrower that's boosted because of the Sunny Day and does about half damage before we finish it off with Dazzling Gleam. Staraptor's up next, which is one shot by Thunderbolt. Then it's Oricorio, and I use Thunderbolt. It does about 3/4 and goes for Teeter Dance, which doesn't affect us because of Good as Gold ability, and we finish it off with another Thunderbolt. Larry's ace Pokemon is Flamigo now, which terrestrializes to the flying type, and we one-shot it with a Thunderbolt. The final member of the Elite Four is Hassel, and he leads with a Noivern. We OHKO it with a Dazzling Gleam, and they send in Haxorus, which we also OHKO with a Dazzling Gleam. Dragalge's up next, which we can't OHKO with Dazzling Gleam, so we go for Shadow Ball, and they land a Hydro Pump before we finish it off with another Shadow Ball. After that, it's Flapple, which is once again one shot by Dazzling Gleam, leaving only Hassel's ace Pokemon Baxcalibur. We hit Dazzling Gleam, it does good damage but doesn't take it out as they go for Glaive Rush, which is resisted but still does decent damage, and we finish it off with a Dazzling Gleam. With that, that's all of the Elite Four now beat, and we've only got to beat Champion Geeta and the final 3 battles before we can go to Area 0. Next up, we're over to Top Champion Geeta. That's her title in the game. I don't think she deserves it, but what can you do? We've got a time of 8 hours 45, and we're at level 69 after beating the Elite Four. She leads with a Sparfa, which falls to a single Shadow Ball. Then is Avalugg, which falls to a single Flash Cannon. King Gambit falls to a single Focus Blast, which we hit, thankfully. Veluza falls to a single Shadow Ball. Go-Go almost gets one shot by Flash Cannon, but only goes for Ball Cut before getting taken out. The final Pokemon is Glimmora, which terrestrializes to the Rock type, and super effective steel damage with Flash Cannon is enough to one-shot it. We've got 3 fights left and we're down to Area 0. Can we do it without any more deaths? I decided to take Nemona on first out of our final challenges, and we're at level 70 with a playtime of 8 hours 56. We come straight from the battle with Champion Geeta. Nemona leads with Lycanroc, which gets one shot by Flash Cannon. She then sends in Orthworm, which gets one shot by Shadow Ball. Dunsparce is next. It doesn't get taken out of a single Flash Cannon, but only goes for Coil, and another Flash Cannon takes it out. Pormo comes in afterwards, which falls to a single Dazzling Gleam. Goodra's up next. We do Dazzling Gleam for about half, take a Muddy Water for very little damage, and finish it off with Dazzling Gleam. Skeledirge is Nemona's final Pokemon, and she terrestrializes it to the Fire type, and we terrestrialize to the Ghost type. We hit Shadow Ball for about 3/4, and Skeledirge hits Shadow Ball on us for about 2/3. We outspeed it, so we can finish it off with a final Shadow Ball. As we were already in Messagoza, I decided that Penny would be next, and we're at level 70, although I didn't realise at the time that we leveled up in the fight, so we actually recorded it as 71. And we've got a time of 9 hours and 4 minutes. Penny leads with Umbreon, and we go for Dazzling Gleam as it goes for Baby Doll Eyes, which can't affect us, and we do quite a lot of damage. We then finish it off on the next turn with another Dazzling Gleam. This brings in Flareon, which we terrestrialize to the Ghost type and hit Shadow Ball, not quite taking it out as it goes for Flare Blitz, finishing itself off and doing about half HP to us. Vaporeon's up next, so we use Thunderbolt. It survives and hits us with Hydro Pump, so we finish it off with another Thunderbolt. Jolteon comes out, we outspeed and one-shot it with Shadow Ball. Then Leafeon comes out and we also one-shot that with Shadow Ball. This just leaves Penny's ace Pokemon, Sylveon, which terrestrializes to the Fairy type, and we go for Flash Cannon. It uses Shadow Ball, leaving us in the red, but another Flash Cannon is enough to finish Sylveon off. Finally, it's time for us to battle Arven. We are at level 71, and we've got a time of 9 hours and 21 minutes. Arven leads with Greedent, which we hit with Flash Cannon, and it survives and it hits us with an Earthquake before falling to a Flash Cannon. Scavillain comes out second, we terrestrialize to Ghost and hit a Shadow Ball, which one-shots it. Toedscruel comes out after that, we hit Shadow Ball, dropping it to the red, and it hits us with Spore, which I didn't know could hit with our ability, but we spend the next 2 turns asleep as Arven's Toedscruel goes for Power Whip, missing the second one. We wake up, finish it off with a Shadow Ball, and Arven sends in Garganacl, which falls to a single Flash Cannon. Cloyster's up 5th, and that also falls to a single Flash Cannon, leaving only Arven's ace Pokemon, Mabostiff. Mabostiff terrestrializes to the Dark type as we hit a Dazzling Gleam, almost killing it, and it goes for Crunch, almost killing us. Luckily, we outspeed and finish it off on the next turn with a Dazzling Gleam. And we've only got 1 fight left, and this is the fastest we've done this challenge so far. Now we're on to our final battle against Professor Toro. We're at level 73 with a time of 10 hours and 8 minutes. Toro leads off with Iron Moth, and we terrestrialize so we're not weak to the fire type moves, hit Shadow Ball before getting hit by Fiery Dance, and finish Iron Moth off on the next turn with another Shadow Ball. Toro then sends in Iron Jugulus, which gets one shot by Thunderbolt. After that is Iron Thorns. We hit Flash Cannon, doing really good damage, and get hit by a Stone Edge, which does about half to us, and we hit another Flash Cannon, finishing it off. Iron Bundle comes in next and gets one shot by Thunderbolt. This leads to Iron Hands, which we hit Dazzling Gleam, doing a lot more damage than I expected, and take a Thunder Punch for a very small amount of damage before finishing it off with Dazzling Gleam. Iron Valiant is Professor Tori's ace Pokemon, and we hit Flash Cannon, outspeed it, one-shot it, and we have claimed victory for Goldengo in the solo run challenge. The fastest time yet. After all the credits have rolled and everything, we are at a complete time of 10 hours and 32 minutes. As the final battle with Miraidon plays out, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who's made it this far into the video. I really enjoyed this challenge with Goldengo. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot easier than the starters were, but had challenges at times as well, which made it very interesting. The next Pokemon that we're going to be using for this challenge is Cloth, but I am also looking for more suggestions for after that. So if you'd want to comment a Pokemon you'd like to see me do this with, that'd be great. Also, if you've enjoyed the video, please feel free to like and subscribe. It would really help me. With all of that said, thank you once again for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.